guys, welcome to Grounded and Growing. This is my first YouTube video and it's going to be the very beginning of actually starting our seeds, getting things growing. This is just going to be a quick look at what that process looks like for me. First, I want to talk to you guys about what plants I'm going to be going ahead and starting today. Everything that I'm going to be starting here is going to be things that are not frost tender, meaning they are going to be things that will do well even though it is potentially going to freeze, or we might have some frost, or the temperatures are going to be a little bit cooler. Especially here where we're located, it's really hard to know what the weather is going to do. It just kind of does whatever it pleases. First, I have some kale here. We are big fans of kale here in my house, and I really am excited about this one in particular. This kale is called scarlet kale. You can see that there. And it just looks so beautiful on the package. And we also have the Merlot lettuce, some mustard, and again with the nice beautiful colors. This is the Japanese giant red mustard. And then also here we have some spinach. This is the Bloomsdale long-standing spinach. Also got some arugula here, which is a nice spicy flavor if you've ever had that. It's super good. A couple other things that I'll be starting today. I've got some cabbage here. This is the red express cabbage. I guess you might notice that I especially have a thing for the purple vegetables. They're quite a bit of most of the things that I have are purple. And then here we've got a cauliflower. Just a regular white colored cauliflower. This is cauliflower robber, I don't know for sure. And then a purple cauliflower, of course, because as you're seeing, I tend to like the purple things. Purple of Sicily. And then last but not least, a green cauliflower. Green Macerata cauliflower. So we're big fans of cauliflower. We put it in almost everything here. We don't eat a lot of meat at home, so it's a really good meat substitute. We'll put it in our nachos and it's kind of like a ground meat, or sometimes we put it in chili even. Definitely going to be trying out some fun colors of cauliflower. Here is broccoli romanesca Italia. This is supposed to be super cool. Look at that. This picture doesn't even do it justice because it's just a drawn portrait of it, but it'll have like these really cool like fractal patterns to it, and I've seen some other people have a hard time growing it, so wish me luck. I'm going to be sending lots of love to these and hoping that they come through and actually make it this year because I really want to see them. And here is some purple lady bok choy that I'll be starting today. This one is a choy that is called Yellow Heart Winter Choy. So I'm excited about that. Like, look how pretty that looks. Let me go ahead and talk about the things that I'll be using today. So I'm gonna just be using regular red solo cups, and these have been used before. This is a method that has worked out for me in the past pretty well. I did get this idea from Roots and Refuge Farm. Their channel is also on YouTube, Roots and Refuge, you can look them up. I've found that this method works pretty well for me. It's pretty cost effective, and I've been able to get some good use out of these cups, and I reuse them. So I'm trying to keep that in mind. I don't leave them outside too much. The cup that I'll be planting in will have a hole in the bottom, and then the other cup will not have a hole in the bottom. And what I will do is I'll place either a marble or a rock in the bottom of this cup so that when I place this cup inside of here, there is a little bit of a gap, and when I water these, then what will happen is instead of having to water from above so often or try to spray them with a water bottle or anything like that, what will happen instead is it'll water from the bottom. And that was super helpful for me because sometimes I'm not the best at remembering to water things, and this really helps you out and keeps things where they should be. And this way you're not overwatering. Having this system allows it to pull that water up from the bottom that it needs. As you can see, I just write what I'm planting on the cup here. And so I'll probably go ahead and like cross some things out that were previously on there. Sometimes I'll take rubbing alcohol and just wipe it off with that, but I'm not gonna go into the effort of doing that today. So I'll just make a new note on here and I kind of keep it straight that way. I use an organic potting soil, and then sometimes what I'll do is I'll mix in extra peat moss. So I'll go ahead and show that to you. Here is the peat moss that I usually use. And then I'm not sure what brand I have here, but this is just an organic potting soil, just natural organic potting mix. So this already does have some peat moss in it, so I don't always mix extra in, but occasionally I'll mix a little bit extra in. Today I'm not going to. I think I still have some mixed in there from the last time, so I won't be adding any additional peat moss to that today. That just kind of makes it a little bit airier, lighter, and it's a good way for your seeds to go ahead and get started. So I'm going to take my first cup here. And, all right. I think I'm going to go ahead and do these by category, and I'll start with the first ones first here. And I will get a cup that has marble in the bottom. And I'm going to check the outside here and make sure that I write my new name of what's going on there. I scribble out the old so I don't get confused and think that I've got tomatoes, because none of these are gonna have tomatoes today. And let's see, I'm gonna go ahead and get started with Purple Lady Bok Choy. So I'm gonna go ahead and write that right out here on the outside of my cup. And then I'm going to get a scoop of my soil. My soil is pretty dry in the bag because it's been in the greenhouse. So I'm going to go ahead and get some water and actually water in my soil just to dampen it a little bit before I put my seeds. That way if it compresses down, I know where that level of the soil is actually going to be, because it's pretty light and fluffy right now. Okay, so I've got some water here. I'm just gonna put just a touch in there just to kind of moisten that soil just a little bit. All right, so I'm not gonna put too many seeds in. So these are really tiny, itty bitty little seeds. Gonna make just a tiny little hole. Okay. And then I'm just gonna drop just a few little seeds in here. Just try to get one in each hole. Alright, and then I'm gonna cover those. Fill those holes in. Alright. Now we've got some bok choy going. And I'll set that aside. Make sure it's labeled pretty well. Looks like it is. And then I can start the next one. This process of starting all these seeds in these cups makes me think of my grandpa a lot, because he will save cups from places. So if he ever gets like a soda at a gas station, and you know, you get those styrofoam cups. I remember growing up always having these styrofoam cups where he would start his seeds. And he doesn't have a greenhouse or anything, but they'd just be in the kitchen, in the windowsill. They'd be out on the porch on warm days in a little flat from like the grocery store or something like that. He'd have several out there where he was starting stuff, and he'd bring them in at night. It's so funny that now I'm using these cups too. These are plastic, but still it's kind of funny to see that and have that comparison there between my grandpa saving all those little cups from places. And now I'm starting 1 cup of each plant, but there will be multiple starts in each cup. So at a later date, I can, once these start to sprout and get too big for this container, then I can take each of those and separate them out into their own cup if I need to. But this also gives me a little bit of extra room. So if not all of these seeds germinate, then it gives me a little bit extra chances of getting the plant that I'm wanting from these seeds. I actually have some seeds here on the table. I have everything laid out. I've been going through and trying to figure out what I want to get started, but I have some seeds that actually came from my grandpa's garden. And it's so funny to see the different containers he's used. He's got like a lot of little old pill bottles that he keeps them in, and I just think that's a cool concept to repurpose things, and definitely something to keep in mind, that we can use things for different purposes instead of just throwing everything away. I didn't really say, but most of these things that I'm planting right now, I'm not planting them very deep, so they're pretty close to the surface level. We don't want them to be very far down into that soil, because if you look at a lot of these seeds, I showed you in the beginning what the bok choy looked like, but you kind of go based off the size of the seed. So if you have a smaller seed, you don't want it to be super deep down into the soil. You want it to be a lot closer to the top. So usually you'll want to plant things basically twice the depth of your seeds. So you can kind of take a look at how big your seeds are, and that's going to tell you how far you want to plant those. So if you had a larger seed, you'd want to plant that a lot deeper. And they will tell you most of the time on the back, but let me see here. I don't think this one tells you. So a lot of things may not tell you, but there are some that say like sow 1 inch deep, and that would be like something larger, like a pea or a bean or something of that nature would have a lot deeper need to be in the soil. But these little things, they're not going to be able to go all the way through a super deep level of soil. So you want to make sure you kind of almost surface sow those things. Let me just go ahead and show you here the difference in what the sizes of these things will look like, because the peas will be a lot larger. Like a pea seed is literally the pea. This would be your pea seed, which it's literally just a pea, but quite a bit larger. Whereas when you look at these little seeds here, They are super hard to see, but if you can kind of see those, they're tiny. This one says to sow 1 inch deep. So a lot of these Baker Creek packets have a lot of good information here on the side, and they'll tell you exactly everything you need to know about planting, which is really nice to have that, like the time that it sprouts, the ideal temperature, how deep, plant spacing, if it's frost hardy, and then the hours of sun that it needs to receive. So I try to space these out also. When I'm putting the seeds in there, I try to put one further away from the other and the other so that they have some room to grow when they're first starting out, because these are pretty decent sized cups. So I can get a few plants started in here, and then once they get more established, I can break them up and separate them out into their own. But I want to make sure that they aren't crowded, because if they're too close together, even though they're small, they will get really leggy trying to compete with each other for the sunlight. And some of these are so small that I'm dropping a few extra seeds in there. And if they were to all come up, so say instead of having 3 seeds in here, I have all like 6 or 7 seeds come up, then what I'll do is, if they're really close together, which they will be if I have that many in there, then I'll probably just go ahead and pinch off a few of those so that they're not too crowded and competing.